The History Lab is obviously meant to provide some of the same skills that other history courses do, like writing and close reading, but it's different in the sense that it's a collaborative research project together with a faculty member where students will work on a digital history project together with a faculty member and will come up with original research by the end of the course. So undergraduates will learn how to create a database. In most cases of digitized newspapers, we will talk together about how you construct a database, what are the sorts of fields. That'll be really the first half of the course, learning how to construct databases. And then each student can choose for themselves how they want to analyze that database. So in effect, you can choose the digital research skills that you want to learn as a student. Do you want to learn something like sentiment analysis? Do you want to learn mapping skills? Do you want to learn word frequency analysis? So that in effect, as students are looking towards a job market, they can decide which one of those skills they think will be most helpful for them as they look for their first job after UBC. The philosophy behind the History Lab is pretty easily summarized in the acronym ACE. It's adventurous, collaborative, and engaged. It's adventurous because we really don't know where this journey will lead us. We begin by deciding that we're going to work on a set of sources from a particular time and place, in most cases digitized newspapers, but where that ends up and what kind of conclusions we reach, we really don't know. We go on an adventure together as a class. Secondly, it's collaborative because we work together to figure out how we download those sources, how we're going to put them into a database, and even how we're going to analyze them. And thirdly, it's engaged because it requires students to do something that's really different than a lot of other history, to deal with this amazing new mass of digitized sources that has become available in the last 10 to 15 years. And as students, you get to actually do original research in a new and innovative way that simply would have not been possible 20 years ago. In the first iteration of the History Lab, I and a group of students looked at the way that newspapers in the United States between 1914 and 1917 covered World War I. So we wanted to understand what kind of news did the United States get before the US entered the war in April 1917. And we particularly focused on what kinds of news from Germany the newspapers were printing. And it turned out that contrary to all of the previous scholarship which had said German news wasn't really printed, it was mainly British news, it turned out that there were tens of thousands of articles coming from German news sources. So what we did together is we gathered those sources and we produced all kinds of maps and analysis of the source of news that was being printed. So for example, we could discover by mapping that the newspapers that were likeliest to print news from Germany were located in places like the Midwest, where there were high concentrations of people who had emigrated from Germany in the late 19th, early 20th century. I called it the History Lab because I wanted to show that this was a way of doing collaborative scholarship that's a little more akin to the way that scientists work in a lab, where you often have a PI, a principal investigator, and lots of students who work together on a certain project. And this is really a mode of history that is quite new and is related to the way that we have just this massive digitized sources that no one person can really investigate by themselves. So this is a combination of historical skills, which are close reading of certain sources, with the collaborative mode of a science lab, and hence the History Lab.